Alright, BIP Bizarre Interest Productions, and we're going to talk about Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 29, since I did read all the leaked spoilers that were translated. So yes, there are spoilers warning, so if you aren't interested in checking out spoilers, don't watch the video. But if you are, I got some interesting things to talk about with this chapter, because I actually found it pretty interesting. The chapter opens up with Boruto and Momoshiki discussing in a flashback where the celestial being is questioning Boruto and if he's being genuine about letting Momoshiki be free. But Boruto claims that will only happen if he's able to defeat Jura, and Momoshiki can tell he's telling the truth because their thoughts are so linked, they can see through each other's deception. Something that's a key element of Naruto, since Kakashi told them before the Land of Waves arc that a ninja must see through deception. Momoshiki eventually realizes, you're telling the truth. And Boruto kind of points out he doesn't have any hope for the future. All Momoshiki wants to do is kill him and then disappear from the world. What got me interested is the concept of what Boruto says. Not letting Momoshiki take over, but Boruto setting Momoshiki free. Momoshiki and Boruto's relationship isn't like Kurama and Naruto. Yeah, both are non-human sealed outside of a human, but Kurama is actually inside of Naruto, while Momoshiki basically infected Boruto with his DNA. And to save his life, Boruto's DNA was altered so Momoshiki can't be resurrected. What we do know is that Momoshiki has attempted to break Boruto so he can take over his body, but even when he saw him try, it didn't work. So clearly after all this time, he was giving up. But the question is, could Boruto free him, and how? I have no idea if this is possible, but I had to speculate. It makes you wonder if Boruto found a way to get Karma and Momoshiki's DNA off him in order to free himself from the Otsutsuki one day. And normally, most YouTube video and essays or analysts don't necessarily get into their points until the end of the video, but it makes you wonder if it's possible for Boruto to could do it. Is it possible that the final fight of the series, or at least for Boruto's character, would it be him facing off against Momoshiki? This might be crazy, but I'm definitely going to include this part in the thumbnail, but it actually kind of adds up. Think about it. Boruto and Momoshiki's first meeting and battle were all tied into Boruto's lack of faith and his own abilities, and Momoshiki being skilled but having to rely on others that he could discard as tools, while Boruto was using a tool to master his issues only for it to backfire. And Boruto learned through the efforts of his father, his sensei and the Kage, the importance of a ninja and shinobi, while Momoshiki got humiliated by Naruto and Sasuke, only got his second win thanks to Sasuke under Genjutsu, boosting his reserves. And whenever Momoshiki takes over, he fully tries to understand and use Boruto's abilities for himself now. If the final fight of the story would be between Boruto versus Momoshiki, this would be pretty poetic for numerous reasons. Boruto only defeated Momoshiki through a combination of most of the work that Naruto and Sasuke put in, and they were both showing him how much potential he has, or the levels he could reach up to if he keeps up with his training, since he needs to be strong enough to rival them in order to be someone worthy of protecting the Hokage. And a fight like this would be super relevant because Momoshiki took out Sasuke's eye with his own body and forced Naruto to watch him fight Kawaki while Kobu using Shikadai as a hostage. And it's because of Momoshiki that Kawaki wants to kill Boruto and put Naruto into another dimension. Plus, Momoshiki knows how to use Boruto's abilities and presumably would want to know how to counter some of them, while Boruto has never fought Momoshiki with his power alone. So I think this would be a pretty interesting ceremonial fight if this is the setup to it. But Momoshiki is aware Kawaki is, at least Boruto wants Kawaki to come and kill him, even with Boruto as a proxy planning to kill Kawaki. But Boruto just wants a deal, and Momoshiki seems like he makes karma easier for Boruto to use. Question in the comments: do you think it's possible for Boruto to use some of Momoshiki's Shinjutsu he used in the fight against Naruto and Sasuke? Like his summons of the animals based on the folklore Kishimoto took inspiration for his character for as a twisted version of Momotaro? So in the present, the karma markings have reached Boruto's scar in hand, but he casually destroys the clone with a Rasengan, blasts him in the eye with some more shuriken, using Flying Thunder God to get behind the rest, and just slaughtered him up with a trailing spin before he lands. When you see it, I didn't like the first angle because it's very unclear about where it is, but the second angle gives me a better sight and it looks much better. Shikamaru warns Boruto about approaching Mamushi clones, but Boruto actually activates the Byakugan, which I've seen some debate about whether or not it is the Byakugan. Allegedly, Kishimoto had wanted to give both of Naruto's children the Byakugan when they were introduced in chapter 700, but forgot. But when Boruto accesses the Karma's power, he can gain a Byakugan, which we could assume is Momoshiki's. There's been debates about the Jogan and whether or not it's canon. But the Jogan, for what we know, is something Boruto can access without Momoshiki involvement, which is pretty cool to actually see him use, since everyone kind of figured he would eventually be able to use one of. So since we haven't seen it be used by a character in quite some time, it was actually pretty refreshing, as he throws a bunch of shuriken to find his targets, and then uses the Flying Thunder God technique, actually hitting them with a super giant Rasengan, which I think we called out the massive Rasengan in the English anime. And don't forget, Momoshiki was able to use that the first time he took over Boruto's body against Boro. So now it's finally interesting to see how Boruto was able to use that power in his own hands for it. However, there are more clones attacking in different areas of the town, but Mamushi's clones are focused on finding Eida when Kawaki shoves more black rods in their bodies in a Riley Reid Christmas special. And I love the line where all of them start flying towards him and he's like, oh, the bug can fly, which I know that sounds really stupid, but don't forget Kawaki was born in the sticks, and like Bug wasn't able to fly as a human as far as we knew, and he's using his new sticks to basically demolish all of Mamushi's clones. Back in the interrogation plotline, the Daimo's right-hand man Kobu suspects that the sealing cuffs that held Boruto being released were Mitsuki's doing, because they were found there were no malfunctions or abnormalities that fell off when Mitsuki attacked Boruto, accusing him of intentionally freeing his former teammate, but there's no way of Mitsuki knowing about the full digit code. Konohamaru realizes it's only people who knew about the code were him, Ibiki, and Shikadai, so eventually they'll figure out that Shikamaru is behind this, but convinces Nishi to let him in, while Sai hears from the sensory unit that there are characters resembling the Shinju in the village and Boruto is involved. After a while, Shikadai, Chocho, and Inojin finally get to putting their training into practice, with Konohamaru coming into Kobu's meeting, claiming he forgot to properly set it and it wasn't actually locked. So by his logic, it would actually make sense for Mitsuki to make the attack come undone, and when Mitsuki is confused, but Konohamaru doesn't want Shikamaru removed, the truth comes out. But Kobu immediately suspects he's a liar, and when Konohamaru-chan tries to deny he's covering for anyone, Kobu decides to bring in the Hokage, which shocks both Mitsuki and Konohamaru. Mamushi suspects about 70 people staring them down when he's trying to fight Eida, and Himawari finally flies in using Kurama's power. More clones finally start locking into her, but she manages to dodge them, while we see Shikadai finally bust out a new jutsu, Nagayami Kage Shibari no Jutsu, which you put in Google Translate mostly associates to casting net shadow binding jutsu. So by English TV standards, it'd probably either be shadow possession casting net jutsu or shadow casting net jutsu. And one of the translations I saw says net casting shadow paralysis jutsu. So either one works, but you all tell me which one you like more in the comments. And he's actually able to trap all of them in shadows and then throw them off the net, which I would love to see how he can apply that to other uses, and how that can be applicable in different combat situations, because he manages to throw them to the ground, and Chocho uses that opportunity to crush them all like bugs. And Inojin starts getting confident, believing that they could win and that this is actually getting easy, but Kashin Koji starts getting worried. Honestly, this chapter felt more like setup, but it's good to see how chaotic it is. It's not a bad thing at all. We got Shikamaru sending a covert group to try and clean up the messes going on throughout the village. We get the basis of Boruto and Kawaki's abilities against Mamushi. The plotline with the interrogation is still having a lot go on. And we get to see that Shikadai and Himawari's training and progression is getting better. It really feels like Two Blue Vortex is trying to do a better job of progressing all of the cast members. And yes, you are going to have the bad faith critics that are just going to look around and question why people are liking it and then assume that it's because of something baseless. Like, look at this critique from chapter 28. The Manga Plus comments are literally just people gushing over the Boruto/Sarada ship. At this point, I'm starting to think that people don't care about the plot. They just want Narusaku to live. But 800 to 7,000 comments doesn't speak for everyone, and not all of them are going to be like some in-depth analysis from casual fans and readers, so why are we trying to use them to judge what the vast majority are thinking from a critical lens? And B, I was more interested in what was going on. I didn't even notice that Sarada wasn't even in this chapter. Like, I could criticize that Sarada, Sumire, and Eida aren't in this chapter, but then that shows that I forgot that Sarada and Sumire are protecting Eida and Damon, which was set up from last chapter, and it's because the heroes are annoying Mamushi so much that he's struggling to find her, which really shows that while there is a gap between the characters in terms of strength, this is a threat that can't be solved alone, since everyone has to work together in order to figure out how to beat him. Plus, I do feel like Mamushi is going to find the girls and Damon eventually. I want you all to put your predictions in the comments below for chapter 30, because I feel like Mamushi has a special ability that would allow him to bypass Dojutsu, because he's going up against Sadara's Mangekyo Sharingan, Eida's Sharingan, and Damon's Reflection. and there's not going to be an easy way for anyone to try and fight those three at once. That being said, I would like Sumire to do something combat related for once. But when you guys have read the chapter, let me know what you think. Did you like the chapter? Did you hate it? And thanks for watching, and BIP of Productions, signing off.